英語聞き流しリスニング、英語テキストと MP3 ダウンロード、その他の物語はホームページからお聞きいただけます。88thpp.com 88thpp.com
30th September. Dear Daddy, are you still harping on that scholarship? I never knew a man so obstinate, and stubborn and unreasonable, and tenacious and bulldoggish and unable to see other people's point of view as you. You prefer that I should not be accepting favors from strangers. Strangers? And what are you, pray? Is there anyone in the world that I know less? I shouldn't recognize you if I met you in the street. Now, you see, if you had been a sane, sensible person and had written nice, cheering fatherly letters to your little Judy, and had come occasionally and patted her on the head, and had said you were glad she was such a good girl, then, perhaps, she wouldn't have flouted you in your old age, but would have obeyed your slightest wish like the dutiful daughter she was meant to be. Strangers indeed. You live in a glass house, Mr. Smith. And besides, this isn't a favor, it's like a prize, I earned it by hard work. If nobody had been good enough in English, the committee wouldn't have awarded the scholarship. Some years they don't. Also, but what's the use of arguing with a man? You belong, Mr. Smith, to a sex devoid of a sense of logic. To bring a man into line, there are just two methods: one must either coax or be disagreeable. I scorn to coax men for what I wish. Therefore, I must be disagreeable. I refuse, sir, to give up the scholarship, and if you make any more fuss, I won't accept the monthly allowance either, but will wear myself into a nervous wreck tutoring stupid freshmen. That is my ultimatum. And listen, I have a further thought. Since you are so afraid that by taking this scholarship I am depriving someone else of an education, I know a way out. You can apply the money that you would have spent for me towards educating some other little girl from the John Grier home. Don't you think that's a nice idea? Only, Daddy, educate the new girl as much as you choose, but please don't like her any better than me. I trust that your secretary won't be hurt because I pay so little attention to the suggestions offered in his letter, but I can't help it if he is. He's a spoiled child, Daddy. I've meekly given in to his whims heretofore, but this time I intend to be firm. Yours. With a mind. Completely and irrevocably and. World without end made up. Jerusha Abbott. 9th November. Dear Daddy Longlegs, I started downtown today to buy a bottle of shoe blacking and some collars and the material for a new blouse and a jar of violet cream and a cake of Castile soap, all very necessary. I couldn't be happy another day without them, and when I tried to pay the car fare, I found that I had left my purse in the pocket of my other coat. So I had to get out and take the next car, and was late for gymnasium. It's a dreadful thing to have no memory in two coats. Julia Pendleton has invited me to visit her for the Christmas holidays. How does that strike you, Mr. Smith? Fancy Jerusha Abbott, of the John Grier home, sitting at the tables of the rich. I don't know why Julia wants me, she seems to be getting quite attached to me of late. I should, to tell the truth, very much prefer going to Sally's, but Julia asked me first, so if I go anywhere it must be to New York instead of to Worcester. I'm rather awed at the prospect of meeting Pendletons en masse, and also I'd have to get a lot of new clothes, so, Daddy dear, if you write that you would prefer having me remain quietly at college, I will bow to your wishes with my usual sweet docility. I'm engaged at odd moments with the life and letters of Thomas Huxley. It makes nice, light reading to pick up between times. Do you know what an Archaeopteryx is? It's a bird. And a Stereognathus? I'm not sure myself, but I think it's a missing link, like a bird with teeth or a lizard with wings. No, it isn't either, I've just looked in the book. It's a Mesozoic mammal. I've elected economics this year, very illuminating subject. When I finish that I'm going to take charity and reform, then, Mr. Trustee, I'll know just how an orphan asylum ought to be run. Don't you think I'd make an admirable voter if I had my rights? I was 21 last week. This is an awfully wasteful country to throw away such an honest, educated, conscientious, intelligent citizen as I would be. Yours always, Judy. 7th December. Dear Daddy Longlegs, thank you for permission to visit Julia. I take it that silence means consent. Such a social whirl as we've been having. The Founders' Dance came last week. This was the first year that any of us could attend, only upperclassmen being allowed. I invited Jimmy McBride, and Sally invited his roommate at Princeton, who visited them last summer at their camp, an awfully nice man with red hair, and Julia invited a man from New York, not very exciting, but socially irreproachable. He is connected with the de la Mater Chichesters. Perhaps that means something to you? It doesn't illuminate me to any extent. However, our guests came Friday afternoon in time for tea in the senior corridor, and then dashed down to the hotel for dinner. The hotel was so full that they slept in rows on the billiard tables, they say. Jimmy McBride says that the next time he is bidden to a social event in this college, he is going to bring one of their Adirondack tents and pitch it on the campus. At 7:30 they came back for the president's reception and dance. Our functions commence early. We had the men's cards all made out ahead of time, and after every dance, we'd leave them in groups, under the letter that stood for their names, so that they could be readily found by their next partners. Jimmy McBride, for example, would stand patiently under M until he was claimed. At least, he ought to have stood patiently, but he kept wandering off and getting mixed with R's and Z's and all sorts of letters. I found him a very difficult guest. He was sulky because he had only 3 dances with me. He said he was bashful about dancing with girls he didn't know. The next morning we had a Glee Club concert, and who do you think wrote the funny new song composed for the occasion? It's the truth. She did. Oh, I tell you, Daddy, your little foundling is getting to be quite a prominent person. Anyway, our gay 2 days were great fun, and I think the men enjoyed it. Some of them were awfully perturbed at first at the prospect of facing 1,000 girls, but they got acclimated very quickly. Our 2 Princeton men had a beautiful time, at least they politely said they had, and they've invited us to their dance next spring. We've accepted, so please don't object, Daddy dear. Julia and Sally and I all had new dresses. Do you want to hear about them? Julia's was cream satin and gold embroidery, and she wore purple orchids. It was a dream and came from Paris, and cost $1 million. Sally's was pale blue trimmed with Persian embroidery, and went beautifully with red hair. It didn't cost quite $1 million, but was just as effective as Julia's. Mine was pale pink crepe de chine trimmed with ecru lace and rose satin. And I carried crimson roses which JMCB sent, Sally having told him what color to get. And we all had satin slippers and silk stockings and chiffon scarves to match. You must be deeply impressed by these millinery details. One can't help thinking, Daddy, what a colorless life a man is forced to lead, when one reflects that chiffon and Venetian point and hand embroidery and Irish crochet are to him mere empty words. Whereas a woman, whether she is interested in babies or microbes or husbands or poetry or servants or parallelograms or gardens or Plato or bridge, is fundamentally and always interested in clothes. It's the one touch of nature that makes the whole world kin. That isn't original. I got it out of one of Shakespeare's plays. However, to resume. Do you want me to tell you a secret that I've lately discovered? And will you promise not to think me vain? Then listen. I'm pretty. I am, really. I'd be an awful idiot not to know it with 3 looking glasses in the room. A friend. P.S. This is one of those wicked anonymous letters you read about in novels. 20th December. Dear Daddy Longlegs. I've just a moment, because I must attend 2 classes, pack a trunk and a suitcase, and catch the 4 o'clock train, but I couldn't go without sending a word to let you know how much I appreciate my Christmas box. I love the furs and the necklace and the Liberty scarf and the gloves and handkerchiefs and books and purse, and most of all I love you. But Daddy, you have no business to spoil me this way. I'm only human, and a girl at that. How can I keep my mind sternly fixed on a studious career, when you deflect me with such worldly frivolities? I have strong suspicions now as to which one of the John Grier trustees used to give the Christmas tree and the Sunday ice cream. He was nameless, but by his works I know him. You deserve to be happy for all the good things you do. Goodbye, and a very Merry Christmas. Yours always, Judy. P.S. I'm sending a slight token, too. Do you think you would like her if you knew her?
英語聞き流しリスニング、英語テキストと MP3 ダウンロード、その他の物語はホームページからお聞きいただけます。88thpp.com 88thpp.com